Greetings, one and all, and welcome to the podcast where nothing makes sense. Off topic. Here we start with the singular topic and end up talking about anything and everything that strikes our ADHD-addled fancy. I'm joined today by my close friends, Isaac, who you all know and love, and Cosmo, our first guest on this show.
Oh, I'm loved.
Yo.
We have a fan base.
You do now.
Yeah, let's go. Shout out to my fans.
Yeah.
Y'all are the real ones.
Just a big room full of like desk fans.
Oh god.
Bring it on.
Now for tonight's discussion, our senses. And I also want to extend the conversation to perception if we make it that far. And thus I begin
We can make it that far.
And thus I begin the episode with the question: how many senses do you guys believe that human beings have?
Ooh, that's a good question.
See, physically, I think we have 5. Like, I think
think-
scientifically there are 5 senses that humans possess. But I would say that, like, philosophically, there could be more.
I think of physical senses. There's also like knowing where your body is in space. Like if you have your hand out in front of you, you know it's there. If you put it behind you, you kind of know where everything is.
Mechanoreception.
Yeah, I forgot what it's called. It's like
It's
something or other.
proprioception. Proprioception is the
Yeah.
wait.
So
positioning.
I guess that's 6.
Yes. Because the reason I asked that is because when I went to do research into this, just kind of some very baseline research, I got results that varied anywhere between 5 and 33.
33?
33.
You might
What
as
are they
well
not
throw
teaching us in kindergarten, guys?
So apparently there are. Go ahead.
Give us some examples of some of these.
Yeah, can we get the list here?
Senses?
So there's 3 different main ones that I got, which were the 5 or 6 senses, depending on whether you want to count proprioception and those senses. 21 senses, which I kind of looks to me like that's probably where the midline lies, and kind of what I would believe. And then the radical side, which is 33 different senses, which are like, for example, I'm looking at this list right now, and in so there's the conservative, the accepted, and the radical. The conservative just calls vision. Accepted vision is light and color. And then the radical is light and then red, green, and blue. So you can kind of see how they're broken up.
I can see. So like they're just dividing vision into a bunch of things, and that's how they get so many senses.
They're
Yes.
subcategorizing.
Which I can kind of understand the accepted and radical sides of it, because on the accepted side, yes, light and color are 2 very different things. You sense those differently. And on the radical side of
like
things,
some people have, like, color blindness. I don't actually know how that works, but like I would assume that's probably sort of where the idea comes in, where you could perceive light, but your sense of like color could come in differently.
yeah, and I mean, like, when it's
You
dark
can be
outside,
colorblind without being blind.
yeah, when it's dark out, you see in blacks and whites and not necessarily color.
So there is definitely something to that.
Yeah.
Is there multiple types of hearing too?
No, hearing is all across the board, is just straight up hearing.
Wow.
Everything else is broken up in
like,
some way or another, but hearing is just across the
good
board.
old
Everybody
reliable
agrees
sound.
hearing is hearing. Yep. Hearing is hearing.
Neato.
Math is math and sound is sound.
Yep.
I respect them for that. Hearing might be my new favorite.
Is there like a sense for each type of taste?
Yes. So that's what I was going to say about the vision, is it's broken up into light. Like if you're going on the far side, it's light and then red, green, and blue, which to an extent does make sense, because we have 4 different types of receptors in our eyes. We have the receptors that see light, and then we have red, green, and blue receptors. And then for the taste, it has the sweet, salty, sour, bitter, and umami flavor tastes, which we do have different receptors that taste each of those different things.
I just
That's
So
thought of
trippy.
something. What about smell though? There's not like any dividing smell.
no,
Like in
smell
vision, there's three colors. For like taste, there's six tastes. And like smell,
smell in this on the conservative and accepted sides are just called smell. The radical
oh,
side, it specifically says 2,000 or more receptor types. So it's identifying that there are literally thousands upon thousands of different ways that we perceive smell or different receptors that receive
hmm,
smell. So
oh my
it
god.
kind of, without having literally 2,033 different senses, because that's kind of where that would get at if each of those were a different
Yeah, yeah.
thing. It's kind of
I
just, you know, yeah.
I wonder how many what's the smallest number of smells to get like the most range of smells, I guess. Like like 2,000 or something, but can you reduce it to like 100 and still get like most smells?
Yeah. I mean, the 2,000 or more receptor types comes from there are 2,000 plus different types of smell receptors that each can pick up a slightly different scent, and then when they combine, they make specific scents. But I kind of see what you're saying is like, you know,
Can we simplify that?
yeah,
Smell-o-vision.
can it be smell-o-vision?
Imagine if this was like an EA game and you had to buy all those different receptors for smell. Like you get nose for free, but the rest is all added purchases in game.
You got to buy 2,000 plus different extra
No,
smells.
comes free with burning, sweet, and like there are two other smells.
Comes free with
The
four
standard
smells. You need to
ones.
buy the other 2,000 yourself.
Each
Or
one's
just
a
like
dollar.
play the game long enough. Like play it for a couple hundred years and you'll be able to unlock it naturally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is that you can kind of argue that, I mean, all the information is going through the brain, and this is kind of where perception comes into play, is that kind of your senses are sensing what's around you, and perception is more of what your brain does with those things that you smell. So the way that you're like hearing and hear, or with what you are sensing, not smelling.
Right.
I was just thinking specifically smelling and hearing,
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
your brain kind of combines a bunch of different
Hmm.
uh, inputs to come up with one solution or one kind of
I
overarching, this is what's happening.
learned something I took like psychology last semester, and I learned something kind of interesting. Apparently, there's like a place in the middle of your brain where all your senses go, but like smell has its own part. It's just like weird.
Trippy.
Probably because it's got all those two back to the
It's already
2,000
close enough.
receptor types. It kind of has to be
Yeah,
processed differently because it has so many different inputs that are being
It's just
uh,
built different.
pressed at the same time. Yeah, it's just built different.
built different. Hmm.
So yeah, that kind of brings up the question of like what is a sense? Like what we're told we have five senses when we're really young, right? And
Yeah,
they explain all these things, and it's like, but what actually are those? Like when we're told we have this many senses, what defines a sense? It's how we feel, sense the world, right? And
Yeah.
so then they bring that in, and it's like suddenly kind of changes things up because how are we seeing the world? Are we just seeing like all the light and everything is how we see it, but then like what is sight? It's just the reading of these light signals that are being sent into our eyes, which is just kind of trippy.
it goes back to the whole
Yeah.
perception thing of where it's like so one of the reasons that
Yep.
I had extended this conversation into perception is because Isaac, I know I told you this last week when we ended up not recording because Cam couldn't make it. But I was recently diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder. So, um, Hosmer, are you laughing at me?
No, I just said
Oh, I thought that was a hmm.
He was laughing.
He was laughing at me. It's fine. I'm laughing
I
at
was not
myself.
laughing.
I'm laughing at myself. It's
Whoa.
it's just interesting because it means the way that I perceive the world is like I get inputs that are other people don't get. Like the way that I perceive the world is
Wait.
warped. Is not.
Are you telling me that you bought EA's expanded pass?
I got the expanded pass. Yeah, I bought.
Got the
I
EA expanded pass.
My mom bought me the DLC when I was born.
That's crazy.
But it's just interesting because it's like I see things that aren't actually there. So like perception, it's the whole my mind is literally lying to me, and it's like why does it do that? And it's like because it does.
Yeah,
And it's fascinating to me.
just because it does.
It does.
It just does.
It just does what it does.
Goofy.
It's yeah, my mind is a little goofy.
Little goofy,
I mean, we're all a little goofy sometimes.
Amen to that.
True.
I think we should all be a little more goofy more often, frankly.
Goofiness is
True.
great. Yeah.
Goofy. Who came up with the word goofy though? Like,
That's a good question.
Someone who was very goofy, because it's a goofy word.
but why do we perceive goofy to be so goofy?
Probably because it's like what it's connected to.
Comes from a variation on
What
the
we
English
perceive.
dialect goff, foolish clown.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. I've definitely
I'm
heard of
wondering
golfing.
if you had like a person who doesn't like speak English and you said goofy, would they like get the gist of what it meant just by saying
I mean,
goofy?
okay, there's definitely like linguistic science in which there are certain sounds that I think are universally perceived in certain ways. But I do think a lot of it comes down to culture and what you were like, because certain languages have very different sounds to what other languages are.
Yeah.
I feel like to a certain extent, there would be certain things that people might just find amusing, whereas in other regards, there would be sounds that, like, to us, this word might sound goofy, but to someone else, it sounds like some other. I can't think of an example, but yeah, there could easily be ways in which the language and words that people are taught then create associations with other things.
Yeah.
Especially when you think about how much of society like surrounds language in general. Like there's a lot of things that are affected by the words we speak.
Like
Just
people.
like jokes and humor, puns. Like, okay, dad jokes would be completely different in other languages because they're like kind of surrounding the idea of puns and what words go well together. And then you change language and all of a sudden they won't work the same way. Except for that one joke that's like about a cat doing something, but it works in every single language.
What?
Yeah, I was gonna say, what are you?
Wait. Cat. Let's see if I can find it.
Is this an actual thing?
There is an actual joke.
Every single language?
Yeah. Okay, here we go. A pun that works in both English and Spanish. It's like a thread. Where do
okay.
cats go when they die? Purgatory. I'm gonna annihilate these pronunciations, so hopefully we have an English-speaking fan base here. De donde van los gatos cuando mueren? Purgatorio. So in Spanish, gato is cat, so you can still make the same pun.
Okay,
And then it works in Italian.
Languages for a second. Oh, it works in Italian.
It works in Italian. Dove vanno I gatti quando muoiono del purgatorio. Also works in French. Où vont les chats quand ils meurent al purgatoire. And it works in Portuguese. Para onde os gatos va quando morem para o gatorio. So I think it's like probably to do with the Romance languages because they were all like Italian, French, all that same root. But it's a pun that works across the board for a lot of languages.
That's
and
great.
Then there would be other. If you like swapped it to Russian or something, I feel like it probably wouldn't work.
Yeah,
It's interesting.
they would have listed it if it did work.
It's interesting because that's just like etymology is always really interesting because we literally the first episode of this podcast was about words and
Mhm.
Oh
like
yeah, I
it's
remember.
yeah it's just interesting because it's like with that like the joke is purgatory like it's interesting that purgatory translates out like somewhat similarly to
Hmm.
multiple different languages.
And somehow all of them have some sort of a connection to a cat, which I think is just proof that cats are a devil. I mean, if we're on,
Yeah, yeah.
that's a
Yeah,
joke.
yeah,
That's a joke. I have nothing against. Actually, I have a lot of things against cats, but nothing like substantial. Um, but anyways, like words in general are really interesting when you start thinking about perception of reality and senses because we're speaking right now, and anyone who understands English can like hear those, and they just automatically connect what we're saying to words. When all we're
Yeah.
doing is vibrating our vocal cords in really interesting ways on a certain like standard basis that we've all decided has meaning. And then you listen to another language and you're like, they're speaking gibberish. I don't know what's going on. But then they can converse like normally because they learned the rules of how those vocal cords translate to
yeah.
like certain words and meanings.
It's interesting.
And it's just a really,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's fascinating because it
Yeah, how
all
how does your brain even do that?
yeah
right?
it
Like,
right like brain like you could somebody could be speaking like super duper quickly like they just keep talking whatever. I don't have words that come out that fast. I'm not a fast talker. But like people
Mm,
like who are like at auctioneering rate, like you know
yeah,
those people who talk super 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 super, super
that
fast,
that sounds really fun. I'd
like
totally try to do
try and fail.
yep.
that. Yeah, but like with enough months of practice, how
With
long
enough
does it take to
practice.
be an auctioneer?
I don't know. I think it's
Some
like
people are just born with the gift, honestly.
yeah.
You like
One day, kid starts
imagine if a
talking really
baby.
fast, and the dad sits him down and says, "Kid, with great talking speed comes great responsibility. We're sending you to the auctions."
Sending
I
you
was
to
just
the
like
auctions.
imagining like this baby just sitting at like an auction platform.
Oh no,
Being trained in the arts.
he's being trained in the arts.
The arts. Perception.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of what I was getting at was like somebody could be talking super fast, like say 500 words a minute. Like I think
Yeah.
that's pretty quick. Like 500 or 600 words per minute is really, really fast. Like 600, that's probably the cap what you can do. Like that's what, 5 words a second? Or no, that's 10 words a second. That's too fast.
It's a lot of there's this guy who's like has
There
a
are people who
world Guinness
type
World
that
Record.
fast though. There are people who type that fast though. So
Some
it's
people are
not,
just cracked.
there's no way it's impossible. But the fact that our brains can perceive that and then decode that quickly is really
Hmm.
interesting. It's like just like rapid fire. When you're around something enough, it just kind of becomes second nature.
Yeah.
The fastest speaking speed is 637 words per minute.
Wow,
How
that's
did they even know like that he's still talking at that point?
at that point
Yeah,
it's
at that
just
point, it's not even.
Like, how do you know he's not just like faking it?
yeah. At that point,
Scatman.
they don't. They're no longer words.
I'm the scat man.
Okay, so I I'm taking a music psychology course right now, and we were
Mhm.
discussing how like sounds work and how language works and all this kind of stuff. And something that we brought up after discussing how like the ears function and how they like obviously the earlobe traps the sound that goes through the ear canal, hits the drum like makes the same vibrating pattern similar to how like a CD or a record kind of work. Um, and it makes that vibrating pattern, which then like sends. I honestly, it was a lot of biology stuff that went over my head, but long story short, ends up sending an electric signal to your brain, and then your brain translates that as sound,
Yeah.
which has led to a lot of like really interesting things where some people will have like a actual problem with their hearing where their brain keeps translating like signals that are being sent. Like usually it's with deaf people, from what I understood. But there's a problem where if they get a song stuck in their head, it actually sends the signal to their brain, and so they actually hear it, even though there's no sound being produced. Their brain is creating it, and you can see like the brain mapping of the brains has been done to show that they are actually hearing it.
That's weird.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, so
interesting
that's really
because
trippy.
it it goes back to perception and like it all goes back to perception, but it's kind
Perception.
of um like when you're hearing something in your head, like to an extent, you were for all intents and purposes literally hearing it.
Mm-hmm.
Like the way
That,
that
re-
it's
that reminds me.
registering on your brain, in your brain waves, the way that the neurons are firing, you are literally hearing it without actually
And
hearing
it's
it.
literally nothing more than some electric signals telling your brain, like your brain is not actually hearing the sounds and recording it. It is like your body is recording these sounds and then sending your brain saying, hey, this is what you're hearing, and that's how you are actually hearing the sound. Like your brain is just convinced that this is what's going on around you because that's what the body has told it,
Yeah.
which
But at the
starts to get into
same
mad existential crisis.
but at the same time, if you ever like you hear like a long like a buzzing sound or something, eventually your brain just tunes it out and stops hearing it. Or you just
Right, but
chooses
you
to do
can
that.
focus
You
on it.
know?
Like if you're in a room and there's a bunch of sounds, you can focus on certain things and you won't even notice some other stuff that's happening.
It's like cocktail party syndrome where you could like you hear there's like a big commotion in like some party and then you hear your name and you hear that over everything else.
Right.
Yeah.
Isn't isn't there like this there's like some it's like you can some disorder that makes it so you can like smell sounds or like see smells or
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, yeah. That
I'm
is a
pretty
thing.
sure that exists.
I don't know what it's called, but there's a disorder where which I'm assuming this goes back to the whole uh everything in your brain goes to that one, all the senses in your brain go to that one spot. And I'm sure that even though you said that smell
Yeah,
goes somewhere differently, I'm sure it goes there eventually. Just kind of there's uh
yeah.
but
It's
th-
like a
things get mixed up in the brain where neurons are connected to other neurons in places they're not supposed to. And kind of like when
yeah.
you get one sense input, your brain reads it a different way.
That'd be so weird.
It would be weird being able to smell sounds. Imagine
I don't even
smelling
understand how that would
music.
work.
Imagine smelling music. Like,
That would be crazy.
That
it,
sounds like a great concept for like a story or something.
yeah, it does.
I have no clue how. Like my brain
Like
can't
ooh,
physically comprehend
yeah.
how it works, but
Like imagine like an artist who like paints what he sees music as. That would be crazy.
I was gonna say, or yeah, that,
like
or
Ratatouille. You know in Ratatouille when he's like talking about all the scents of the food and there's like all the art and pops going on behind him, and it's like
Mm,
it's a visual representation of that. I feel like that would be so trippy.
I feel like there is an extent to which that does happen because like when you hear specific sounds, you like would be able to picture that sound a specific way.
And I think that
yeah.
comes from like how we were trained to learn that sound
I
almost.
I do think
Like
I do think it is, but like at the same point, the whole there's sharp and soft sounding sounds, so
right.
they kind of like just by their nature uh look different for lack of better words, and it's
Yeah, like
just
there's like like a study the word boba and kiki
yeah.
and then you
I
have
was
to like
trying to remember what the specific words were. I knew it was I knew one of them, the sharp one was a K word or a
and then
T
like
word or something.
yeah and like one of them it shows like a sharp shape and there's another one that's kind of like a rounded shape and you have to say which one seems more like has the name.
Yeah. Oh, also the ink blot test.
Oh yeah.
Just kind of the way
No,
that
I'm not sure I'm familiar with that.
The ink blot test?
Not by name, at
Ink
least.
blot
If you
test?
describe it, I might remember.
It's
It's
like they put a bunch of ink on paper and then they say, "What do you see in these blots of ink?" And different people
Oh,
see
okay.
different things.
yeah,
Gotcha.
and like because there's kind of it's interesting because there's like what a lot of people answer, and then there's kind of more obscure things, and like it's meant to root out specifically thought disorders, I think is specifically what it is for. I know because when
Hmm.
I was in the hospital, they did ink blot tests on me because we were trying to figure out what the hell was wrong with me. Turns out I'm just I get to see things other people don't. Anyway,
DLC.
Any
yeah,
whoosies.
I've got the DLC. I've I've just
The
got the
DLC.
DLC. Um, but it's interesting because the way that your brain works changes the way that you, not the way that you sense it, but the way that you perceive it. And kind of like it's a testing in how your brain makes connections almost.
Oh,
That reminds me of Laurel and Yanny.
yep.
I do not.
Yeah. You don't? It's like an audio clip. When you hear it,
Audio
you can hear
Oh,
illusion.
both Laurel
yeah.
or Yanny depending on things.
Yeah, I know what you're talking
So you
about
know
now.
how
Yeah.
your what pitches you can hear better, because the trick was that they just played both of them, but one was like a lower pitch and one was a higher pitch. So whichever one people
Mhm.
naturally heard more predominantly, they would hear that one. So people were able to hear with quotation marks two separate things. When in reality, if you like knew what you were looking for, you could hear both of them.
Yeah. My brain just hears whichever one I'm thinking in situations like
Exactly.
that.
Yeah.
For that one, I can only hear I can like only hear Laurel most of the. I've heard Yanny before, but like I usually hear Laurel.
I don't even remember which one was my like main one I heard,
I
because I
heard,
figured it out so quickly. Well, I
yeah.
was like told it.
Oh yeah, I just another weird perception thing. What about dreams though? Those are kind of crazy.
Dreams are
Dreams are trippy.
wild. Dreams are absolutely wild. Your brain just makes shit up and it goes along with it.
And scientists have no idea why.
Nope, no idea why, no
Yep,
idea what causes them, how they even
they're
work
just
in the
there.
first place. They just exist.
Well, it's like in dreams, you have like a sense of senses, but like, well, I don't remember. I'll be in a dream, right? And I'll be able to sort of like, you can see things, obviously, because you
Yeah,
can see what's going
Mhm.
around, but like, it's never clear what's going on. And I don't feel like you can usually like smell, taste, or anything. Like, it's just kind of seeing and hearing
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
that are the
It's
senses you
interesting
can do.
because that's the
I
same exact. It's
actually
go
I
ahead.
actually have tasted in a dream. It was a really weird dream. Just
Yeah,
yeah.
very
Well,
familiar
and then,
tastes and smells. I think I've had the one where you taste chocolate before. Because like I
Mm,
know that
it,
there's a couple of smells and tastes that are very specific that a lot of people know that have
it
been
it definitely
experienced
was
in
not
dreams.
specific. It was a really weird dream. I don't. It was like battery acid taste. It was disgusting.
Ooh, that's not good.
that's
Yeah,
nasty.
it was not a good dream.
Um, but as I was going to say, it's interesting because that kind of dream state where it's like everything kind of like it exists, but at the same time it's like kind of fuzzy. Like it feels
Mhm.
like all of your senses are kind of muffled. Like
You can
it's
like tell it's
Well,
not
that's a good
real.
word for it.
you could yeah,
Well,
like
you can't
you could tell that it's a
after
little
you
bit
wake up.
off. Yeah, when you wake up and think back on it, like you could tell it's a little bit off. That's the way that my hallucinations present. Like I know that some people's
Mhm.
present like really like physical, like they're very distinctly there, but it's very interesting because it's almost like I'm dreaming in real life. Like
Oh, well, and also like when you're in the dream, it feels so vividly real. But even when you kind of like the second you start to catch on, everything starts to sort of fall apart.
Yeah, it's almost like
And
it's almost like the illusion collapses.
yeah, so dreams are really that's a good word for illusion, because it's like it builds up this idea and then you just buy it. But the second you realize you don't have to buy it, there might be something else going on. Like it's all just kind of it starts to collapse in on itself.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
it's so weird how you just like it makes us believe whatever's happening. Like, how does that even work?
I had a really
yeah,
trippy dream recently where I like started to realize or something happened and I was like, "Oh, please let this be a dream. I don't want this to be like actually happening right now." And
Mhm.
then I proved to myself that it was a dream, but then I went back and it was like still going. And I went through like a phase of 3 or 4 times forgetting that I was in a dream and then having to reprove it to myself. It was like my
Yeah.
brain was so convinced that it was real that it just kept on going back and being like, well, you just proved that it wasn't, but we're just going to cast that aside. And it was really weird because I've never had anything like that before. Because normally, like we said, once you figure it out, it starts to like unravel.
Hmm.
it's
It's
interesting
like it's
because
trying to get you not to notice.
I have a very
Yeah.
strong grip on my dreams, so I don't dream very often. I have been dreaming actually pretty regularly lately. But like when I was little, I had a recurring nightmare situation where I would have the same exact nightmare every single night, and I had that for literally years. It was
Oh my god.
awful.
That's terrifying.
It was horrible. But because of that, I have near complete control in my dreams once I realize it's a dream, and I'm very good at recognizing when it's a dream.
So
So,
you're just going through your origin story.
yeah,
You were gaining your superpowers.
I was getting my superpowers, my dreaming superpowers.
With the DLC.
Yeah, with the DLC that lets me it lets me dream while being awake. Essentially, it's fascinating.
That's crazy.
It's just I just get
I
You
I
unlock the bonus levels.
I unlocked the bonus levels.
I haven't had a reoccurring dream since I was a kid.
I had this one about alien invasions in the parking lot of like a Walmart.
Oh, of course it was a Walmart parking lot.
I don't know if it was actually Walmart. I just know the shopping carts were blue, and the alien was also blue.
Alien was the shopping carts.
And no, it definitely wasn't, but it
The
also might have
shopping
been.
carts are aliens confirmed.
It's a very vivid memory of this reoccurring dream that I was like, I'm not even convinced that it's reoccurring. Like it might have just been one dream where in the dream I was like, oh, this is a dream I've had before, and then your brain just accepts that as reality, even though
Mhm.
you've never had this dream before. It like just creates this false sense of familiarity.
Yeah,
Mhm.
But I have a very vivid image of this dream, so I know I had it at least once.
at least once.
At least.
Once, give or take.
Give or take. Something else that I came across when I was looking at senses and stuff was that sixth sense, extrasensory
Great
perception,
movie.
where you can kind of like know things without having a way to know them.
I see.
Yeah, it's literally ESP, but it's extrasensory perception. Um, because I've had experiences where I have very distinctly experienced experiencing. Uh, okay, hold
I
on.
see. I see.
I've experienced experiencing extrasensory perception. I've experienced experiencing it where
Mm.
like I know things without having a way to know them. Like specifically, one thing I'm thinking of is like I can feel energies of people around me. And
Hmm.
this is kind of extending into the supernatural that I know that I'm going to wait until Cam is here with us to talk about at some point because he also has experiences with the supernatural. But it's interesting because it's like I can almost feel people's emotions, like the people around me and people's presences. And so stuff like I've had experiences without having sensed them any other way, knowing that somebody has walked up behind me. Just because I can feel their like energy, their aura behind me.
I wish I could do that. I'm not good at telling how people are feeling. Usually, sometimes.
Yeah. It's weird because I always overread people, and like sometimes I think that I pick up on emotions that they don't know that they're having, and also make jump to conclusions about the way that they're thinking based on their emotions.
Oh, I was gonna. That sounds kind of like me, actually.
Yeah, it's actually bad because it's I know what they're feeling, but I jump to conclusions about what they're thinking based on how they're feeling and the energy they're giving off, and sometimes the energies that I'm picking up aren't necessarily accurate, and so it makes for really awkward conversation sometimes.
I see. No, I get that actually.
Yeah.
I had a conversation topic, but I completely forgot what it was.
Happens to the best of us.
Ah,
Not that any of us are here necessarily the best at this, but I'm sure it
No,
happens to someone around there
we're
who's more
not, but
experienced.
it's fine. It's good improv practice to come up
oh,
with random bullshit to
good
spout at
improv
the
practice.
in the moment.
Shoot, I'm an improv. No.
Good practice, Cosmo. Good practice.
Nah. Mm, topic perception. Perception. What was I gonna say about perception? I was gonna say something. What was it?
I can always fill time if we need.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I'll figure it out.
All right. Well, while we wait for him to do that, another thing from music psychology.
Yes, yes.
I'm going to start off with a question, and then we're going to dive into the question a little more. So have you all heard the phrase like if a tree falls in a forest and there's no one around to hear it, does it actually make a sound, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
And what I want to know your gut impulses. Like what do you guys think?
Yes, it does make a sound.
I think it does make a sound, but the philosophical like uh not impact, like the reasoning behind it as a metaphor is uh very I know I use the word interesting a lot and fascinating, but it's like
Fascinating.
it's interesting because I think that literally, yes, it does make a sound. It causes vibrations in the air, which
Yeah.
is and in the atmosphere. It literally causes what is physically a sound, but like kind of metaphorically, not
Really matter.
really. It like in a metaphorical sense, it's a very interesting metaphor. Just kind of like
Yeah, like
I I
if it even if oh
no, go
sorry.
ahead.
Even if it does make a sound, it doesn't really matter if it did. It could make a sound or it couldn't. It doesn't affect anything.
Yeah, exactly. Like in a metaphorical sense, no, it doesn't make a sound. But in the physical sense, yes, it does.
Okay. So that I think I would have stood with you before having this conversation, but I might have actually had my mind changed because
Hmm.
we had the whole conversation about like how the brain works and how it interprets sounds. If a tree falls in a forest and there's no one around to hear it, what happens to the sound is the fact that it is a sound wave, right? Sound is just vibrations in the air. So we
Yeah,
have a tree that falls, these vibrations are sent out. These vibrations are not like audible unless you have something to like respond to the sound with, right? Like we have ears. That's how we
yeah.
catch and translate the sound. And the sound,
Yeah.
if you had to describe like what it actually is it's like
Hmm.
how your brain interprets it.
Yeah,
So
I see what
your
you're saying. Yeah,
sound is made the sound is made when it's interpreted by your brain by the electrical signals that are sent by your ears. So if a tree falls and the sound waves are sent out, but no one's around to actually translate the sound waves in the sound, then it's
If there's like a
basically just like
swirl.
pushing air around. And so
Yeah.
from a scientific sense, there's actually a chance that like, so suddenly it's not so much a philosophical one, but like a scientific of like, is it a sound if it's not translated? And then
Yeah.
that brought up a lot of other interesting discussions because, like, first of all, apparently plants can actually hear sounds, not in the
Yes.
traditional way. They like sense them and react to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then the question becomes, okay, well, if there's other trees, then yes, they can hear it. But if there's not, then you go back to the same situation of like, no one around? Are you including plants in that?
Yeah.
But then also in space, when there's a set, like obviously we all know sounds don't happen in space because of like the vacuum or what. I'm not entirely sure how it works.
Yeah. There's
it's
no
like a
atmosphere
sound.
for the. There's no atmosphere for the
Sound waves
sound
to
waves to
travel.
travel through.
So apparently, astronauts will sometimes like touch helmets, and then they can talk to each other because of like the sound waves hit the glass vibrates, and then they can translate through, almost like two cans on a wire. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, makes
Interesting.
sense.
Yeah. Interesting.
So astronauts will do that, which then just brings up the thought that like sound waves have a certain distance that they can travel, and like if you go outside right now and you yell as loud as you can, most of the world is not going to hear you because the sound waves will have dissipated into the air. And then you go
Give me
into
a second, I'm
space.
gonna go yell out my window.
I don't know how much
And then you go into
the people
space.
on campus are going to appreciate that, Cosmo.
Hey,
I'm
maybe you won't
joking.
hear. So you go to space, and then suddenly, like, the sound waves are still being created. They just have a range of like 0. Like you've just taken the little scale of how far sound travels, and you just slid it all the way, and it's back to 0. So it doesn't actually transfer, but it's still happening. So if you still create like some sort of connection, you can still have sound travel. Which makes me wonder if you put like a can, like do the 2 cans on a string between 2 astronauts, could you still talk? Like would
Yeah,
the string still work that way?
I think it would work.
Yeah,
That'd be
probably.
really fun to try out.
That would be really goofy.
I've never had any desire to go to space, but now I kind of wanna. Let's do the 2 cans on a string in space.
Let's get the podcast to space, literally. We can go
Let's
test
do
this
it.
stuff
To the
out.
moon.
To the
Let's go put the
moon.
first cell phone or first phone on the moon.
First telephone
That makes
service on the
sense.
moon.
Sounds are really weird because like if you have like if you like set it up right, you can have like the sound and like the inverse of the sound or whatever, and the waves cancel out and you don't hear anything.
Wait,
Yeah.
seriously?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can do
That's
that. If there's
trippy.
like 2 speakers, there's parts that you can stand that have no sound.
Whoa.
Because of the way that waves work, yeah.
Right.
Interference pattern.
Yes, I didn't remember the technical term, but I remember
Whoa.
learning about it in physics.
I actually never took physics.
You should.
You should have.
Well,
How dare
probably
you.
should have. My high school was not helpful in the regards to science. My counselors were kind of crappy.
That sucks.
I wanted to take forensics and never got to take that. Still frustrated about that.
It's really annoying. Our school gave like a computer science class the moment I left.
Naturally.
Oh, did
Naturally.
it?
Yeah, no, I was like senior year, leaving high school. Oh yeah, we're gonna have a CS class next year.
Oh my gosh. I can't believe them.
It's
That's
funny.
always how it works.
So I would have taken that too.
Yeah. Well, too bad.
Oh well.
Too bad, so sad. Did you
Cosmo.
remember what the thing was? Did
Yeah,
I stall long enough?
I was just gonna ask him.
Oh no, I completely forgot. I've
Oh, it's gone.
It's
it's
gone.
dead and buried.
It's
Gone, but
gone.
not. Wait, no, it was forgotten.
That
Scratch that.
actually that
Gone
gives
and
me a new
forgotten.
idea. What about memory, guys? Isn't that kind of a perception?
It is
Yeah,
definitely
I'd say it's
perception.
perception.
It just stores the perception, really.
Well, it's also
It's the
interesting because,
recall.
yeah, and memories can change, and the way that you perceive memories has a massive impact on the way that you live your life day to day. Like that's literally what trauma is memories, and like I have trauma from from perceiving being treated unfairly, which is interesting because I was not treated unfairly, but because of the way that I perceived it in my brain, there's no way to kind of undo that. So I have trauma from situations that were not actually, should not have actually been traumatic.
Yeah, it was. Have you ever had like you can like have false memories? Like if someone can like describe something to you and say, "Yeah, you remember that," and then you might actually remember something that didn't actually happen.
Yeah.
I was thinking about like saying, "Oh yeah, we had a conversation about memory. Remember?" And I was gonna try to do it on you, but whatever.
Well, now it's too late. Rip.
It's
Too
too
late.
late. Yep.
It would have been funny. I should have done it. Shoot.
Missed opportunity. There's
Missed
always a
opportunity.
future. Try
Yeah.
again.
Try it again. 100 episodes in, try it again.
Be like, yo, guys, just remember when we talked about like fake memories,
But this time
and
we
then
will
we'll
have
remember this conversation and think you're trying to like.
we just did talk about fake memories though, so it wouldn't be triggering fake memories. It would
Wait,
be
It wouldn't be
triggering
a
real
fake memory.
memories. It destroys the
No, you're
purpose.
gaslighting me. We did not just have a
Memory.
conversation about fake memories. I would remember that.
We did.
You're trying to gaslight me.
Yeah.
You're
What are you
gaslighting me.
talking about, Liam?
I'm
Oh
not
no.
falling for your ruse.
You're crazy. We didn't even talk about fake memory. We should talk about it now, actually. So what do you guys
Fake
think?
That's a
of
memories.
great
fake memory?
talking point, and really affects our perception of the world. I think it would be a great conversation to have.
It would be.
Yeah, it would be.
We should definitely talk about fake memories. How about fake not memories, guys? Or is that just
Fake
gaslighting
not
people?
memory?
That's just
What
gaslighting.
is a fake not memory?
At that point, that's just gaslighting. A fake not memory where you convince somebody they didn't experience something despite them having experienced it. But I think we came
Yeah,
to the
that's
conclusion that's
really
just
gaslighting.
gaslighting.
Your words went in one ear and out the other. I have no clue what you just said.
Cosmo, you're not
They
helping.
say, "Hey, remember when?" and you say no, and you just like convince them it never happened.
It's just
Like
gaslighting.
espionage 101.
Yeah, it's just gaslighting.
Anyway, let's talk about fake memories.
Fake memories. Have you guys has anyone ever gave you a fake memory?
Yes.
Oh.
I think. I don't know for sure because I have the memory.
Is it fake or is it not? Any of your memories could be fake. Ooh.
Exactly. Well,
That's
That's a
stresses
little
me
too
out.
existential though.
it's interesting because
I think it's too existential.
I have this happen a lot where my grandmother will describe something that happened like when I was really young, something that happened to me, and
Mhm.
I'll kind of be like, yes, I remember it vaguely, but at the same time, is it actually me remembering it or is it a fake memory that's being
Yeah,
planted?
you don't know.
Just the idea of planting like fake memories is really interesting. I feel like there's a lot we could talk about there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but a lot we could talk about. Let's talk about it.
We should talk about that. That feels like a good spot.
Yeah,
Kind of
we
jump
haven't talked
into.
about fake memories yet. Let's do that.
We haven't like at all, which is weird. And we've had this whole
No,
conversation without talking about fake memories.
Can't
I know,
believe we
right?
haven't even touched on this yet. Fake memories. What
We
do you
haven't
guys
even
think of
touched on
fake
this yet.
memories? We are going to drive this bit into the goddamn ground if it is the last
I
thing
don't know
we
what you're
do.
talking about. What bit?
It's not a bit. We're just talking on the podcast.
About what?
We're just doing our job.
Well, you know what we should talk about?
Fake memories. We should
Fake
talk about fake
memories. We should
memories.
talk about fake memories.
Oh
Yeah.
my god, that's crazy.
The one thing we haven't actually discussed on this show yet. Maybe we should make that a whole week.
Show.
We
Whole
know, you know,
week.
we actually had that. That was last week's episode, wasn't it?
Last week's episode was
We
fake
were talking
memories.
about, yeah, when we were talking about
dude.
like how you can have things that didn't happen, but like when someone mentions it, that you feel like they did.
Yeah,
We talked
I was
about this for
there. I heard
an
it.
hour.
Last week was about gaslighting.
You just don't remember it because we gaslighted you to forget it.
Oh gosh, there are too many layers now. My brain is falling apart.
No, I was there. I remember.
You were there? Despite this
Yeah,
being your first week on the podcast, you were there last week
yeah,
when we didn't even
exactly. I
have
was there last
an
week.
episode last week.
Yeah, on the Gaslight
Well, you just don't
podcast.
remember
The
it.
Gaslight podcast.
That's my favorite one. I love that show.
My favorite show,
That was
Gaslighters.
like the best. It's actually funny because never mind.
I feel like we should just put in a public disclaimer here that gaslighting is not cool unless like everyone's on the same page. Like,
Imagine like
I just want to put that out
gaslighting.
there. Don't do it to be rude.
No, gaslighting is
It's not cool.
awful.
Just say no.
Just
Wait, no, that
say
is
no.
literally just gaslighting.
Wait a minute.
If you get gaslit, just gaslight the person back. No, please don't do that.
Be healthy here. Make good decisions about relationships.
You're not the one
Yeah.
gaslighting me. I'm the one gaslighting you.
You can't gaslight me if I gaslight you first, or if I gaslight you harder.
Or if I gaslit you on fire.
with gas. Yeah.
Perception.
Arson is not okay, kids. Don't do it.
Perception.
Perception
Perception.
and fake
That's
memories.
Okay, so I want to bring up this topic. It's fake memories. What do you think of that?
Guys, we're killing the bit. It's time to stop.
Might be time to just end the episode before this gets worse.
Yeah, it's
Sure, we
it's
can
been long
quickly
enough.
move on from this joke.
Can we move on from this joke?
Probably
We're
not.
gonna
There's
start
no
with
recovering it.
episode.
There's no recovering it.
Okay. Let's think of things. Think of things that aren't false memories.
See, but everything could be a false memory.
God damn.
Like my whole life could be a part of the Matrix. Like I could wake up tomorrow. Okay. Random story I just heard yesterday for the first time, and apparently like this is a kind of a well-known story or something. But like, have you guys heard about the guy who had like got into a coma or something, and in 10 minutes experienced 10 years of life? And like the
What?
only sign that it wasn't real was his like lamp was looking weird or something, and then at the end he realized it was like the lights from the ambulance.
Hmm.
He had like 10 years of life that just disappeared in an instant because apparently he just like had a seizure or
Hallucinated it.
something.
Yeah.
Alright,
That's
actually, I have
interesting.
an interesting question.
What?
What if that story was a false memory?
Oh my gosh, Cosmo, stop it! The bit is
Okay,
done.
okay,
The bit is over,
It's literally
Cosmo.
what it was. His brain like so I don't
I'm
know
back
how
in
it
track.
happened. I don't understand it at all. But like somehow his brain like just went through this thing and convinced him so surely that he was doing it. And if you think about it, he had to be like moments
so
would be passing at an exponential rate. And did he actually like
Long-
experience all that, or did he just suddenly spawn into memories?
I've pissed
Like,
the bed before
yeah.
because I thought that I got out of bed and was using the bathroom.
So he thought he experienced 10 years in like 10 minutes?
yeah, like this guy got into a fight or something, like had a concussion or whatever, and then just thought he had 10 years of his life go by, and then just realized that the reason this lamp was like so bright every time he got back was because it was the ambulance light, and 10 minutes had passed or something. Dude had to like enter therapy and stuff
Like, have
because
you
he
ever
had
heard
like
that
10
joke?
years of his life gone.
Have you ever heard the joke like, it's like the accident was 5 years ago. It's not your fault. It's like that.
It's like that, but real.
Like,
It gave me
Yeah,
Narnia
real.
vibes. Like the amount of
Yeah.
trauma those kids had to go through when they just came back to the world. It's crazy.
It's crazy.
Crazy.
Insane.
Loco
Bonkers,
even.
even.
Bonkers odd.
I think
Oh, I just got the joke.
I didn't get the joke.
We said bunkers even, and he said bunkers odd
Oh,
because
Cosmo,
evens and odds.
stop
You can
being the
ignore it.
pun
You can
master.
just ignore it. Weren't we talking about
I'm
dad
honestly
jokes?
ashamed I didn't think of it first. Well played.
I told you guys you would get along.
When did you tell us that?
Stop gaslighting
He
me.
did say that. He
I
did say that though.
I'm pretty sure you guys are trying to plant fake memories into my mind here. I don't. This never happened.
But no, he
Isaac is
actually said
Isaac
that at
is
the start.
Isaac is questioning everything now.
Or am I? Or am I just gaslighting you?
I need the proof here.
Yeah. Let's get the recording on.
Roll the clips.
Roll the clip.
When you're
Let's
editing this,
actually edit in
I
the
want
clip
you to
there.
text me when you find out
I
that you
wasn't
never said
recording
that.
when I said that, unfortunately. That would have been really funny
Oh
though.
yeah, you weren't recording.
That's. I know you weren't. That's why I made the joke.
It would have
You
been
can't
funnier
prove
if I
nothing.
had and
Oh
I could
shoot,
roll the
that's a
clip.
joke.
You can't prove anything. You never told me that.
You can't prove anything. Nothing is real. The world
Wait,
is
we went-
collapsing. The world as we know it.
we went from talking about perception like pretty normal, like well not normal, but like conversations, and then now we're just questioning everything that has happened in the past hour.
Question everything.
Reality is just trippy, man. What even is
Perception
life?
reality.
What even what is existence? How are we aware of being here?
Brain go and then it
Brain go
works.
burr.
Amen to that.
Brain go
Brain
brr.
There's a difference between burr and
Brain go
It's a very scientific difference.
Brain go I think we may have milked this for all it's worth.
Oh, we could
I
definitely
see,
make
yeah.
it for more. We probably should not, though, for the sake of sanity.
Yeah.
No, for the sake of
sake of-
everybody involved,
Before-
especially the
before it gets
viewers.
too existential.
So, I shall
Actually, never mind.
begin wrapping it up. Cosmo, because Cameron has been skimping out on his duties, how do you feel about being on this podcast permanently?
I'll come in when you're missing people.
That'll probably be
Oh,
most of the
backup.
time.
Well,
You
I'm
gotta
usually free Saturdays and Sundays, so
Isaac, I do want to
Yeah.
consult you on this. How do you feel about him joining the podcast permanently, or at least semi-permanently?
I'm always down for more people.
Yeah.
I mean, I like too many people.
wasn't it supposed to be 4 people originally?
Yeah, it was going to be 4 people originally, and it got cut down to 3. That's part of why I'm asking you, is because with Cam dealing with his stuff and not being able to record a lot,
I think having 4 means we will have a balance, so that we can have 3, even if we don't have the full crew.
Yeah, and we always have Noah, although he's never up for recording. I don't know why he's even still here. Yes, I do. I love the man.
Emotional support.
He's great. Trust
No,
me.
We'll get
I'm
one
fine
episode
doing it.
eventually. Just one episode. That's all we need.
I know. We need to get him in here for one episode. We gotta plan ahead of time and get him in here for one episode.
We get 5 people in one.
Oh my gosh, 5 people would be absurd.
The Penta podcast.
The Penta podcast. That's crazy. Anyway,
That is crazy.
so I will pick somebody to host next week. Cosmo, how do you feel about hosting next week?
What do I have to do for hosting? I just find a subject.
Yeah, pick a subject. That's literally it.
Then I just get a bullet point of things.
Yeah, and then you would do the introduction for the episode. But other than
Okay,
that,
I don't know how to do that. I'll figure it out.
I always just wing it.
I don't do it either.
Yeah, nobody really does.
Yeah, I'm fine. I'll do that.
The other part is that because I picked you, you get to do the outro for this episode. So you're really put your improv skills to work. Put your improv skills to work.
Okay. Well, this was off topic. Well, we went very off topic. Actually, we mostly talked about perception, but yeah.
You know what we should have talked about? Fake memories.
Yeah, did you even see this podcast? I don't think so. I think you should go put the little bar, but put it back to the start and then start watching again. You forgot it all. You got to go back.
Yep.
But thanks for watching or hearing.
So long to everybody watching. So long and farewell. We'll see you or hear you. We won't hear you. You'll hear us
They'll hear us.
in the next
Whoa.
episode. Goodbye.